The epoxy is hard on the timing chain cover. You know, as you can see, now it's all one nice, neat, pretty color. The epoxy has been roughed into shape with a razor blade when it was kind of at that, you know, cheesy-like consistency. So I'm going to file on this, get the epoxy all leveled out the way it's supposed to be. And we also got an exciting new part just recently. Take a look at this thing. One big old radiator. Thing's huge by large for the Riviera. This is going to replace the brass copper one that was in there. Now, I did go looking at brass copper radiators, but they want another 200 bucks on top of this guy. Now, this is from Champion Cooling. It was like 360, 80 bucks or so from Jegs. Or I could have spent 500 or 600 bucks on a correct brass and copper radiator and still had, you know, a similar capacity. Let's face it, we're hot rodders here. We can't leave well enough alone. If we have the opportunity to make something better, we're going to make it better. So that's going to take a little bit of race car fab to fit in the Riviera, but you know something? We're going to have a better cooling system because of it. So let's get the timing chain cover filed down. All right, guys, I've gone back and forth on this about a dozen times. Do I swap the rope seal for the new rope seal, or do I leave the old rope seal in? I think the answer is I'm going to put the new rope seal in. So what I've read, you trim off the little end here so that way it's, you know, clean and flush. Remove the old one. The factory manuals say take the retainer out, but from what I've read in some of the Buick forums, leave it in place and do the rope seal here in the timing chain cover. So I'm going to take the rope seal and just slowly work it in around the edge. And then from what I read is you want to cut it about a ½ inch longer than you think you need, so that way you still have room to stuff it into the gap. Now, interesting observation, this one was done with the meat at the bottom. Everything I read says you're supposed to leave the gap at the top. We're going to put the gap at the top for everything else I've read, and we're just going to go for it. Now that rope seal is in, let's start using the Fel Pro gaskets and start getting this thing back together. First off, I'm going to go get that little chunk of the front oil pan gasket set in place and silicone down so it doesn't move on me. Then I'm going to come back, put the big gasket, that one, on the timing chain cover with some silicone on both sides, and we're going to go get this thing into place. After that painful ordeal and silicone everywhere, turns out that dowel pin was just a little tighter than it needed to be. Holy crap. So now I'm going to go get the water pump gasket, and we're going to get that thing sealed up. That should go a lot smoother, but this time I'm going to put the water pump on first just to make sure it does its thing, you know? Next up is the water crossover. It has a weird O-ring that I just accidentally pushed into place, truthfully. The gaskets are gooped up. I'm going to put some bolts into it. And yes, I realize that I've got accessories, but frankly at the moment, just getting everything put in and the bolts tightened down so the silicone can cure nicely is my goal. I can pull them out later without upsetting things, and that's what I'm going to do. The water crossover is on. Next up is the thermostat. There's your part number. And I'm still using Fel Pro gaskets. Let's see here. There's your part number. This happens to be a 160 thermostat. I know there's a lot of guys out there, 160 is too cold. Yeah, and? Anyways, it's what I run on my race car. It's what I've always had good luck with on the street. You know, to each their own. Pick the temperature you're happy with and go with it. So I got the 160 thermostat here. This is a fail safe, so if it fails, it's supposed to fail in the open direction, so that way you still get coolant through and don't burn things to a crisp. Anyways, grab some silicone. Let's get this guy installed. So now that stuff is put back together, I'm going to grab the radiator and I'm just going to get it test fit into place while there's, the least amount of stuff in my way. I'm going to start looking at what's in my way. I mean, looking at it right off the bat, we've got the original tangs. Woo, overexposed there. Bright and sunny through the window. We got the tangs on that side and over here that need to be adjusted, removed, tweaked. Anyway, I'm going to at least set the radiator in and start getting things figured out for that. So here's where I'm at. I mean, obviously that radiator is huge for this engine bay, which is great because it won't get hot, let's face it. Has anybody ever said, darn, I have too much cooling capacity? Yeah, I don't think so. Anyways, so I've got the upper radiator mount here that needs to be cut and extended a little bit. And there's also a lip down there at the bottom that needs to be trimmed up. I took the original lower radiator mounts right here, and they just screw into place with a screw right through there. This little guy helps hold the shroud into place, so I'm going to have to come up with something there. But yeah, we're just going to work this through one piece at a time. So I've got some thoughts on how to put that big radiator in place, because that thing is, huge compared to the radiator that's there. It's about 3/4 of an inch thicker across the tanks than the original brass and copper that came out. But that's not a bad thing, because we like excessive cooling capacity. Anyway, so the RTV is drying. It's doing its thing. I got some thoughts. We're going to end it off here. We're going to catch you next time. And next time, we're going to be continuing to put the accessories back on. I'm going to go all the way up to putting the fan in place because I kind of need that out of the way so that way I can get that radiator fabbed into place. Anyways, thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe and all those good things, and I'll catch you next time.